Chris was just recently at a show. I can't remember the name of the show, but you had like some
We talked about it.
some
He won.
yeah yeah he won. Of course he won. But you
Number
had some
one.
like things. You had some things where you couldn't put the knives out like on the table. You had to put them behind the glass case and all that kind of crap.
Not, I wasn't sure about that, so I rather kept them behind like closed doors, behind like glass, because it was like super unclear. But in the end, there were like other like booths that had them just laying on their table, so it was just like I just didn't want them to come around on like Tuesday and say like, "Yep, you got to close everything down," and I just had that small glass thing where you can put like, let's say, 20 knives in, or maybe even less.
Yeah.
And that's why I get like quickly like a bigger one where I could showcase like all my knives. And in the end it was super cool, because then I could like showcase like all of my knives, and I had like different storages where I had like on one storage there was like the Indomitor blade, on the other one there was just the Hydra blade. So that was super cool, and like people could see all the knives in the end, instead of having them like just a couple on the table and with like a black blanket underneath it. And yeah, it was kind of cool, but I wasn't sure how everything would work now with the new knife laws, even though not that much has changed, but they're now like much stricter. They're much more looking out for stuff like that, and therefore I was just much more careful, because I didn't want them to close down my booth on like, let's say, the first day or so.
Yeah, and was that a problem, or do you think you lost sales because of that, or?
No, no, no. Maybe there were some customers who said like, "Oh, you're selling the knives, but why should I buy a knife which I cannot carry anymore?" I'm like, "Dude, have you seen the law?" He was like, "Yeah, you're not allowed to carry it." I'm like, "Dude, you can still carry up to 12 centimeters of blade length in Germany, a fixed blade." And he was like, "No, it got changed." I'm like, "Dude, look at the law. Here it is. It hasn't changed." It was like super weird, and people were just like confused at the show, like, what are you allowed to carry? What are you not allowed to carry? And especially in like the hunting community, because if you do something wrong, even with like a knife, and you carry it at the wrong place, you can lose your hunting license.
Really?
And all your guns and all that kind of stuff. So you have to be super, super careful. And nowadays, now that I'm doing my hunting license, I don't carry a knife anymore outside, because if you're taking the train, you're not allowed to carry in there. If you're like in some parts of the city, you're not allowed to carry a knife. So yeah, there are some spots where you're not allowed to carry, and I'm just more, because nowadays they're looking out more for that stuff. And even on the show, there were some guys who were walking around the show and checked out people if they would carry a knife on the show or not. And it's so dumb, because those guys, they're getting like checked by the state from the Verfassungsschutz, which is like they're checking everything, they're making background checks and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, the gun community and gun owners in Germany, they're one of the most law-abiding citizens, in my guess, because we are getting so quickly punished, and our guns are taken away by even making like small mistakes, like Keith with you now, with like drunk in the car, guns are gone.
Yep.
So this is like, just like, we have to be super careful with everything. Even if I do something wrong with my taxes, I could lose my guns. So
yeah, that's probably the next fucking thing where I get pinched, because I don't listen to that shit. I carry a knife with me everywhere. I go into Germany, I have a flipper knife. I got the spring-loaded knife. I should probably be a little bit more careful with that. You gotta learn from those fucking things.
If I wouldn't have my gun license or my hunting license, I wouldn't even care that much, because then it's just like a small thing, and you would have to pay maybe let's say $100 or so, and then everything would be fine. But if they see that you're a gun owner,
then it's even more.
They're cranking it up, and then they're trying to take away your guns. And this is, I think, the problem, because the gun owners in Germany, the most law-abiding citizens, because they know with just a small fuck up, they can lose all their guns, they can lose their hunting license and all that kind of stuff, and they work their asses off for that, because the hunting license and everything that comes afterwards is super, super tough and also expensive. And it's just super weird. If those guys want to do something stupid, they got like an AR-15 at home, which they could load up and do really, really bad shit. And if they're out in, let's say, in the city or so with just a knife because they forgot it in their pocket, because they were maybe on the day before, they were out in the woods doing stuff for the animals and all that kind of stuff, then they're getting fucked.
Yeah.
So you have to be super, super careful. And you have seen that on the show, that people were kind of like confused with the new laws. People also didn't know what have changed, but they also haven't looked into the law, what actually have changed, which is also a problem. They've just seen some stuff on the media that maybe this law is coming and maybe not. And then they just thought, yeah, this happened now, but it didn't. And this is like a big problem. And
it's super unclear, and not like it's really a tough situation for people. I mean, obviously you don't go to watch like a soccer game and bring a folding knife with you in your pocket because you're out in public. But what is allowed and what is not allowed? And then the next question is, some things are allowed, and then you go on the train and that's not allowed, or you go into the city and it's not allowed. So what do you do with that knife that you carry with you all the time? Where do you leave it?
Kind of lock it up.
It's crazy.
So you have to actually, like, when you have like a bag, there are those TSA locks with that wire lock. You can use those and just put them between those zippers on your bag, and then just zip it up, and then it's locked. That's fine.
Yeah, but
from my understanding.
But is it fine? But is it fine? Because not all the people on the police force know those exact rules.
Yeah, but then
you run into that also.
Yeah, but then they're taking away that knife, and then you go through that process, and then in the end they will say like, yeah, we made a wrong call. Everything was good. The knife was locked away.
Yeah, but that process costs you a day from your job. You have to take a day off. You have to go to court. You have to talk to them. You have to fight them. And I mean, of course, if that happens, you need to go through with it, because people need to understand. The police officers on the street need to understand those laws, and you need to go through with it, even though it costs you a day at your job and it costs you a shitload of money to get. I don't know what kind of. I mean, we've seen the grandmother with the Swiss Army knife. I mean, that was. I mean, that was an awesome example. But
the same thing happened on the show.
Yeah.
Actually, as I said before, they were checking guys for knives, and they found knives because they knew.
Of course, they did.
It is a hunting show, and people, they're having their hunting clothes on, and of course, there will be most of the times a knife on there. And the years before, no one cared, and now they just checked them to get the quote up. Like, we have now a new knife law, and now we are controlling, especially where
with
guys are going to carry.
The fucking badasses, and we're keeping knife off the street from this 80-year-old lady. She's got a Swiss Army knife in her pocket with It's fucking.
It is how it is.
Yeah.
Sucks, man. Sucks to live in Germany.
I'm happy that
Austria.
not that much has actually changed, because the law was in there before that you couldn't take a knife to, let's say, a soccer game or like a show.
That's understandable.
But now they're just so nothing that much has changed. They just have clarified stuff a little bit better, I would say. But people are now confused. But the good thing is, in the EDC community, people read the law about knives, because in the gun community they're reading the laws about their firearms, but not really about knife laws and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And in the EDC community, like the most dangerous thing that can get in trouble is the knife. So they're checking the knife law, and then on like the knife shows and all that kind of stuff, people know about the law, and then they know, so you don't have that guesswork in the end, and which is really good. And then they are still going to buy their knives because they know actually the law and what is good and what is not, and what is allowed.
I think that stuff needs to be like really, really clear somehow, or there needs to be like some place where you can like download something, print it out,